We have a good schedule today. I'm excited, but before all that begins, we need the all counter, grammarian, and the timer to stand up and explain their roles. So I'm going to have the all counter stand up and explain their role.
Hi everyone, I will be counting your alls, so's, any filler words that you have during your speeches today.
And timer? Timer?
Yes, timer. Okay, so I'm the timer, and these are the cards that you will be looking at to make sure you're in time. So I will hold up the green sign whenever you have reached your minimum, and then yellow means halfway, so you should probably start wrapping it up, and then yellow means that you have 30 seconds left, and that you need to hurry up and finish.
And now.
As grammarian, I'll be keeping track of your sentence structure, making sure there aren't any run-ons or any wrong grammar rules, stuff like that.
Thank you. Okay, so now that we know the rules, without further ado, I welcome Slate Nation to come up to give his first speech, so everybody be super respectful and super attentive. Thank you. Come on up, Slate.
All right. Hello, everyone. So my name is Slate Nations. This is my first speech titled Life of Slate. And I'm just going to start off about my birth. So the beginning of my life. I was born in Athens, Georgia, right here. And I was born right in Athens Regional. Every time I drive by, my parents are always like, "You're born right there in that window." So it's a pretty old running joke. And so my dad, about my family, I've got 2 older brothers and a younger sister, and then mom and dad, of course. And my dad was in the Navy for 22 years. So I actually was born in Athens, Georgia. And being in the Navy, we would move every 2 to 3 years. So right after I was born, we moved all the way across country to Coronado, California. And 2 or 3 years later, we moved to Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. And then another 2 or 3 years, back to Coronado, and then back to Jefferson, Georgia, right near Athens. And so, thus I moved cross country 4 times in my life, so that was pretty significant. And so that's thanks to my dad. And thankfully, he's retired now, so I've been living here in Jefferson, Georgia the last 10 years. So, just a little about my family. Like I said, I've got 2 older brothers. They both went to UGA, so did my mom and dad. And then, so just move on to my life. Really big part of my life was I was a Boy Scout in Boy Scouts America. I reached the rank of Eagle Scout, so that was pretty significant. My Eagle Scout project was a prayer garden, which consisted of 2 benches, a covered swing, and 2 picnic tables. I did that for my local church called the Jefferson Church, which I attend regularly. And so, yeah. And then in high school, I was pretty involved. I was in FFA, Future Farm America, for 2 years. I ran for president twice. Unfortunately, didn't get it. I was also, in my middle school years, really involved in rec football. That was super fun. And unfortunately stopped for time issues because I was so involved in other things. And yeah. And then, so some more about FFA. Things I did was they had these CDEs, which are career developmental events, which I was most involved in forestry and as well with their Parley Pro, so that was a lot of fun. We practiced those a lot. And then just moving on, so I was actually only like in my high school in Jefferson for 2 years, because the last 2 years of my high school I actually dual enrolled. So that was kind of fun because I don't think anyone likes high school much. So I kind of got out of there, and the last 2 years of high school, I was actually dual enrolled full time at UNG Gainesville campus. And so I thought that was just really great because essentially got 2 years of college completely paid for, and I think it was just a wonderful experience, get a head start. And then moving on, what I've got written here is Peru. So my first summer of like real college, I actually studied abroad in Cusco, Peru for 6 weeks. And I stayed with a host family, so they speak Spanish there, so I took 3 intensive Spanish courses. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was, oh 3,000 miles away from my hometown. And fun fact, that was actually my first flight I've ever taken in my life, and so it was a 6-hour flight, so thankfully it all went well, I wasn't scared or anything. But yeah, and this isn't drop proportion, it is South America, obviously. But yeah, just a little bit more about Peru. So Cusco's up in the mountains, and yeah, it was just an amazing experience. I think that's probably the highlight of my life right now. That was the first time I liked to travel, but I can honestly say I love traveling now, because just after doing that, I have to go back to South America, and it was insane. I got to visit Machu Picchu, it's one of the 7 wonders of the world. And just so other quick facts about me, favorite color is blue, and favorite food is pizza. So I think that's honestly sums up the life of Slate, a quick story. And so just leading up to that, I took one more semester at UNG and then transferred in UGA and switched my major to risk management insurance, and the process of getting to Terry, and here I am now at the Toastmasters meeting. Thanks.
Wow, that being his first time, that was great. Now, I had forgotten something, and I forgot to mention the theme for this meeting. So last meeting, somebody had made a speech about Valentine's Day, and they took a poll, and a lot of people in here are single, which is okay. We're all really busy. I'm busy. I know whenever I have a relationship or dealing with girls that my GPA tanks, usually. And so the theme is silver linings. Even though Valentine's Day is coming up, if you're single, even if you're dating, you can always look at the silver linings of things. Today, I actually spilled coffee all over myself, and I had to go and buy a whole new get-up, besides the tie. The tie didn't get affected. But the silver lining is, I have a black shirt. I like black dress shirts better than white dress shirts, so therein lies the silver lining. Now I'm going to write up while you guys are voting for, filling in your evaluation sheets. Thank you. It's been a long day. Evaluation sheets. I'm going to write the word of the day up, and it is called bullish, and it means confident or optimistic about something. So please fill in those evaluation sheets and send them to the middle. Is it okay to erase this?
Yeah, I'm done.
Also, if you use the word of the day, which is bullish, you get snaps. So if somebody comes up here and they work the word bullish into the sentence, you snap. It's just a fun little game we play, and it helps keep your, your mind on point when you're coming up here. Because if you can work in just a random word that you just learned, and you can work that into your speech, it makes it a lot easier when you're actually giving a speech to do what you plan to do, if that makes sense.
The word is bullish?
Yeah, and I'm gonna wait, because we have a time constraint, I'm gonna wait and write the definition after the next speaker. So, now that everybody's had time to fill out their evaluation slips, I'm going to call the next speaker up, and that is Kirk Redman. Please come up on stage.
Thank you.
And this is also his first.
I'm gonna pull this out just so I can set these here. Last Sunday,
Sunday was the 2019 Super Bowl, and I don't care. I'm told that the New England Patriots beat the Los Angeles Rams, and I heard that Maroon 5 performed the halftime show. I also heard that it didn't go particularly well. But I don't care. You see, I could come up with some reason why I don't care, but the truth is it just doesn't particularly interest me. The idea of rooting for one team to beat another that I may or may not have some personal connection with just doesn't spike my emotions the way that it does for some people. I enjoy fish keeping and running and listening to interviews where people recount personal tragedies. You probably enjoy football more than those things, and that's just fine. I don't care. This year's Super Bowl drew over 75,000 people to the city of Atlanta. And with an influx of people that massive comes a boom in the demand for whatever it is that people use and consume. Food, hotel stays, sports apparel, and people. The Super Bowl is commonly recognized as one of the busiest times for criminals who are involved in the trafficking of humans. Children and adults alike are kidnapped or coerced into situations that, if they manage to escape, will leave them with emotional and physical scars for the rest of their lives. This has nothing to do with the Super Bowl, or with football, or with most of the people who are showing up for these events. Statistics show that anytime you have a gathering of people this large, there's a spike in this particular sort of criminal activity. And it's not just at large events. This is an everyday occurrence. Atlanta, in particular, is often seen as a hub for human trafficking organizations. You may have spent nights in hotel rooms next to people who are being held there and transported to places that they don't even know. You may have stepped foot into businesses where people are employed, if I can use that word so loosely, against their will. And I can say with almost certainty that everyone in this room has either used or purchased products that were created through forced labor from exploited individuals. Does that bother you? It bothers me when I think about it, but I hardly ever do. In 2017, the National Human Trafficking Hotline had over 10,000 individual victims reported as victims of human trafficking. That's just the number reported to one resource in one country. They estimate that there might be over 100,000 people currently held in modern-day slavery in the United States. So I know these things. I've heard them from people in my life. I've read about them in various resources. How does that affect my life? It doesn't. I don't have any personal connection to this. I've never knowingly witnessed it firsthand, and I've never been a victim or a perpetrator of human trafficking, thank God. But if I'm honest, it doesn't affect my life because I don't care. I'm not saying that I think it's okay, or that it doesn't disgust me to think about that idea, but it doesn't affect my life. It's random information disembodied from the world that I imagine that I live in, that I tuck away in the back of my mind to be ignored. So what do we do with that? I'm not one to think that we should make our decisions based on our emotions. I'm not one to tell you what to do. But if I don't feel for these people, because that's what they are, they're people like you and I, then where do I start? Where do we start? You could probably go through a list of various ways that people are taken advantage of and are suffering in the world. And I could look you in the eye at each one and say, I don't care. But maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe that has no bearing on the decisions that I make, how to spend my time and my energy. I don't know what the right thing is to do. We don't have the time and the energy to help everyone in every situation. But I can tell you that I'm fairly certain that the right thing for us to do is not to just sit on our hands and to imagine that things like this aren't happening all around us in the world.
Wow, what a powerful first speech. I am very familiar with the troubles of sex trafficking and what really is going on. It's pretty sad. Unfortunately for us, we can't do much other than what we can do. So that being said, go ahead and fill out his eval slip, and I'm sure he would greatly appreciate some great eval for a good speech, first speech especially. And we're going to take 30 seconds to do that. Now, and also, if you look at the bottom of your eval slips, you'll see the Toastmaster section. Often, I even overlook this section because I'm just not thinking of it, because I'm thinking, going down the line. And basically, what you're going to be grading me on is my ability to be the glue that holds this meeting together. So my job is to make each transition between speakers and roles smooth. So if you could give me some good feedback on that. It's been a while since I've been Toastmaster. Everybody, it looks like we have a change in the schedule. And Nadia will not be giving her speech, unfortunately. So, to your pleasure, I have we'll try to fit this into 5 minutes, pocket speech. And what a pocket speech is a Toastmaster, just anybody who's a speaker in general, usually has like a speech in their back of their mind already set up that they can give. And mine is on the current issue of GMOs. And since because when she asked me about GMOs earlier in last semester?
Yeah, it was October.
Yeah, a lot of people, they just don't know exactly what it is. So I'm going to try and spend 5 minutes talking to you about GMOs. So, without further ado, I welcome Tyler Burnette up to the All right, GMOs. Can anybody here tell me what a GMO is?
Genetically
I saw her name first.
Modified organism?
But besides the obvious acronym, what is it? And it's okay to not know. A lot of the public doesn't know. That's not in the science community.
is it any crossbreeding or scientific manipulation in how plants reproduce?
Sort of.
It's
Okay.
organism with manipulated traits that is specifically created to bring out those traits through science.
Okay. Y'all are close.
Damn.
Y'all are close. Okay, so I'm going to use an example. When did I start? So, I'm going to use an example. So how many of you here have heard of BT corn? BT corn? So you've heard of BT corn? All right. Might as well. So, BT corn is a GMO. And basically, what BT corn is, you have your regular cornstalk. I'm not an artist. This is why I'm a STEM major. Okay? And then you have your little bacteria. All right? Okay? Well, BT corn, it originally started, BT is an acronym, not an acronym, but it's short for the Latin name for this bacteria, which is what they used to spray on corn as a pesticide. And this bacteria actually produces a toxin. There's a gene inside of it that produces a toxin. And that toxin is not toxic to us, it's only toxic to pests. And they used to spray it up until I think the 1950s. And basically, instead of continually doing this with gene modification, they were actually able to isolate the single gene in that bacteria and put it into the cell of the corn. Right? Pretty crazy. And this corn has genes that bacteria have, right? Isn't that wild? it's crazy to me, but then again, I'm a STEM major, so I think everything in science is kind of. But a lot of people, it's scary to them because when you start messing with genes, you're messing with God, universe, fate, whatever you want to call it. I know everybody has their own faith and belief on how we got here, but whatever you want to call it, evolution, God, Allah, what have you. When you start messing around with genes and what fundamentally makes us, it's really, really, the implications can be bad. And so, but what a lot of people don't understand is that this actually occurs naturally. And it's called horizontal gene transfer. I'm going to write it shorthand. It's called horizontal gene transfer. And while, yes, we have a hand in it, it is not detrimental. And Cambridge has actually done a study on GMOs to see if they are actually detrimental to humans and if there is a negative effect on horizontal gene transfer to other organisms. And basically what horizontal gene transfer is, in simple terms, basically the gene from this, and there's many ways a gene can move from one organism to another. Viruses can actually carry genes from one organism to another. I'm studying this in microbiology right now. But long story short, genes do transfer over time. In our genome, we have 200 bacterial genes. Out of the, I think, 4,900, 200 of those are millions of years old that we didn't necessarily get from, evolution, so to speak. And so when people think about GMOs and they think about this and that, yeah, it's scary. Some people think it's playing God. In reality, when you get down to the science of it, and I know a lot of people disagree with me, and you're okay to disagree with me, and I would love to talk with people, especially here, if you have any issues with GMOs. But it's not that bad. There are actually instances in insects, the stick insects. I'm sure we've all seen those. They have what's called, we all have a microbiome. Insects, humans, cows, we all have a microbiome. We all have bacteria living on and inside of us that help us. And our body doesn't reject them because our body knows they're there to help. And with stick insects, they've actually had horizontal gene transfer from a bacteria in their gut biome that it's called pectinase, and it allows them to break down the cell wall of plants. Normally, the bacteria has to be present inside their gut for it to work. But scientists have found that the gene is actually horizontally transferred to the insect itself. And so now, it produces pectinase on its own. It doesn't need the bacteria. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of education. 5 minutes really cannot go into the whole issue of GMOs. I understand that. And there's other points that are valid from the opposition as to why you wouldn't want to do GMOs. But this is just my 5-minute spiel. I'm obviously pro-GMO. So, thank you. Okay, now I'm the Toastmaster. Can you please fill out evaluation slips for the third speaker, meaning me? And is everybody in time, Serena?
Yes.
Okay. And also, while you're filling out my eval slip, please vote for the best speaker as well and send that down in the middle.